Things, I've been getting tons of calls and people asking questions about the building that was torn down. And as a trustee, I promise that I bring these questions before the board because they're demanding answers. So what I will do here is read these questions, and these people deserve to have answers to these questions. Number one question, why weren't the residents of the township given proper notice that the building was going to be destroyed? Number two, when was it decided on exactly what day the building was going to be demolished and by whom? Three, why weren't the glass windows removed prior to the building being demolished? Four, who decided where to rent the excavator from, and were there any comparison prices on our estimates requested? Five, the same applies to renting the dumpsters. Who called for best price, who made the decision to rent them? Six, when was the decision made and by whom to dump all the concrete on private property, and was a release signed by the property owners to accept all responsibility if any contaminants were found? The same goes for the dirt that was removed from the building before the demolition began and taken to another private residence. Seven, why wasn't EPA notified in regards to the demolition of the building? Eight, why weren't the workers wearing safety equipment, hard hats, safety glasses, etc.? And why was one employee smoking on the job during the demolition? 9, what will the total cost of the destruction of this building be to the taxpayers of Nelson Township, and why wasn't there a maximum estimated cost and or a budget set before the demolition began, and how is this going to be paid for? 10, were provisions made for dust control? 11, why didn't the trustees take bids on this job and have the building torn down and hauled away professionally? The biggest question, of course, is why was it even destroyed in the first place? The residents of this township are demanding answers and deserve to have these questions answered. So, why weren't the residents of the township given proper notice that the building was going to be destroyed?
You don't think they were?
No. A lot of times there's an announcement in papers and so on. There was no announcements made anywhere that I've ever seen. Did anybody else see an announcement anywhere?
But all of our meetings, we talked about that, and if anybody was involved enough to come to a meeting, they would have known. Don't
Well,
you think?
you see how many people come to me. Right now we've got a lot more. Some townships get 1 or 2 people to the meetings. The vast majority of the people in this township were totally unaware that building was coming down. And everyone I've talked to except one, who's your friend in the back over there, agrees that the building should be torn down. Everybody else I've talked to was totally against it. But there was not proper notice given. I guess they want to know why. And yes, I'm the messenger. I didn't write it.
I understand.
So Joe, it wasn't in the newspaper?
During the demolition it was. Prior to the demolition, why weren't people given notice? Did you hear the question?
It was in the newspaper prior to the demolition.
Now, the messenger here, I'm asking on behalf of the township residents, asked me to bring these before the board.
My answer to that question would be that it was noted in the minutes of our meetings, and that's our official record of our meetings. That would be my answer to that question.
Anybody else want to jump in, feel free. When was it decided on exactly what day the building was to be demolished and by whom?
We pretty much decided that at a meeting when we gave Chuck the authority to go ahead and tear it down as soon as he had some time to do it. I don't remember the exact meeting that we discussed that at, but I know that was in the minutes of the meeting that he said he needed some time somewhere around Memorial Day. We said that if the weather permitted and if he had time to do it, go ahead and do it.
Okay, because I had a call from somebody on Sunday night, lady on the circle, that they're all concerned about the dust and the dirt and the possible contaminants in the air and stuff, that the building was going to be torn down tomorrow morning, which was the Monday morning. Well, that's the first I'd heard of it. Apparently you went around the neighborhood and told people to close their windows and doors because of possible dust, correct?
I did.
Okay. But as far as, I had no clue the building was coming down that Monday. Well, that was my notice. Then with that, I talked to Chief Freese about, did anybody make revisions or, whatever for getting a fire truck covered for dust control. At that point in time, Mr. Chief Freese didn't even have a clue what building was being torn down. Apparently, I think you talked to him, did you not, next morning? Mr. Carroll? Yes. You talked to Dave and they had the fire truck there trying to control the dust, which was a good move because it's also a law that has to be followed. The other one, why weren't the glass windows removed from the building prior to the demolition? The reason that was asked is because the people living right south of the building had glass shards thrown all through the backyard from that thing. That window exploded when that wall came down. And they had glass shards sticking up out of the grass, correct? And their whole backyard, and they have grandkids in the yard. So I think we better do something about that. Probably cleaned most of it up, I'm guessing, or tried to. But when that wall came
I'm
this way,
sure we'll find more.
I'm sure you will.
Somebody's walking through there.
Is there
I mean,
something?
it would have been a 10-minute job. Take the glass window out instead of having it blow out to the back.
And it did, when that wall came this way, that
Right.
blew out that way, and it went all over the backyard. So I think, at the very least, our road crew should go over there and fine tooth comb the back of that backyard.
Fair enough.
Okay, who decided where to rent the excavator from, and were there any comparison prices and other estimates requested?
Well, we discussed that in the meeting.
We discussed renting an excavator, but then was there any,
Yeah, we discussed renting it from Westlaw.
were there any other price comparisons done as far as cost goes, or not?
No, probably not.
That was who had one available at the time.
Okay. The same applies to renting the dumpsters. Who called for best price and made the decision to rent the dumpsters?
That'd be me.
Okay.
There were no other available dumpsters at the time due to township cleanups.
Okay.
I might say they were less expensive than the dumpsters we were in for cleanup.
The dumpsters that we used for that building were less expensive than the ones we used for the cleanup. They're the same size.
$125 cheaper.
They were smaller dumpsters, I think, too, weren't they?
No,
40 yards.
Were they 4 years? Okay. And when was the decision made and by whom to dump all the concrete on private property? And was a release signed by the property owners to accept responsibility of any contaminants that may be found? Same goes for the dirt that was removed from the building before the demolition began and taken to another private residence.
Do we have any kind of signed paperwork, Chuck?
No,
No.
we never have.
That don't make it right.
No, you're right. Don't make it right, but it's what it is. It's the answer to the question.
And the golden one is, why wasn't EPA notified in regards to this?
We took out a demolition permit and we followed all of the provisions of the permit.
Well, I got a call the other day from Akron Regional Air Quality Control. And according to their laws, their division of EPA, there should have been a notice to demolish, which there was not. There was also, should have been a request for inspection of the building for possible contaminants, and there was not. There's also a fugitive dust law, which is what you tried to prevent with the fire truck. And according to this gentleman, we violated a couple of these laws, and we are going to get cited for them, and we are going to get fined. To what extent, I do not know, but they had heard about this, whatever, and they called me, and I answered their questions for them. And we will be hearing from them, apparently.
Okay.
So, at this point in time, this estimate here was $5,000 to tear the building down. I think there's still some time factor in there that wasn't included. You guys took the doors down and emptied out the building and stuff. I don't know how many hours you had in there, but that's not included on the sheet, I don't think. My guess was they're close to $6,000 or $5,500 or so to tear the building down.
Okay. I'll concede it was 6,000.
Okay, because again, well, I'll go in here. And the other question, why weren't the workers wearing safety equipment, hard hats, safety glasses, etc.? That, to me, it's a no-brainer, but it was asked, so I'm asking you guys.
Okay.
Any response on that one, Charles?
Didn't think they needed it.
No response on that.
And the other was, what are the total cost of destruction and building be to taxpayers, and why wasn't the maximum estimate projected? You mentioned somewhere around maybe 4,000, we're up close to 6,000. Fines on top of that, Lord knows what it's going to be. And back to, I know you want to hear it, but back to $2,000 to put a roof on the building, we could be renting the building out. We could have rented that building for 3 years and had enough money to buy a new one ton. But you guys decided to do the other. Final question, why didn't the trustees take bids on this job? have it hauled away professionally, was the other question they asked.
Because we thought we could do it better ourselves.
Okay. But your bid was 4,200 by having somebody else tear it down.
The problem would have come in when you got into the footers, and that was an unforeseen problem.
Those are big ass footers. I understand they're huge.
That was an unforeseen problem. That would have been an unforeseen problem anyway.
The biggest question, I think, is the why it was torn down in the first place. That's what everybody's asking that one.
You know, it's funny. Never mind. Okay? Is that all?
Those are the questions I was asked to present to the board, and that's what I did.